So we're going to essentially continue our exploration of Ayurveda today by looking at what it has to say about routines and how that could potentially affect our health from a physical, mental, and emotional standpoint. We already used Dr. Subota's book, Prakriti, as a way to figure out what our major doshas are, right? So your Prakriti is your natural constitution that you have by conception. And that is a certain level of Vata, a certain level of Pitta, and a certain level of Kappa. And by knowing that, you can sort of determine best foods to eat and to avoid, and also things that can help you stay in balance. You also have something called Vrikriti. And your Vrikriti is what you are at any given moment of your life. And that's not always the same as your Prakriti. And it can be influenced by the environment that you're in. Like if you're in Los Angeles, it's a very Vata environment. The climate is such that you might have more Vata in you for living here. If you live somewhere else, that would show up differently. Or maybe, if someone, who's smoked cigarettes their entire life, they smoke a pack a day, they're going to have, their natural constitution is going to be hard to read because they've been living in such a way that's going to throw that off. So we want to make smart decisions. Of course, stop smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. You might not be able to leave Los Angeles. You might not want to leave Los Angeles, but we can start to understand that these can affect us. So the best thing to do really is to see an Ayurvedic practitioner who can check your pulses and really work with you hand in hand to figure it out. But until that time, we can start to maybe make some choices that can help us figure out what our true constitution is, and then what we can do about it. So we'll have a look at this here. Okay, it's from the beginning. Okay, rewind and morning routine. There it is. All right, so let's take myself up into the corner and your morning routine. So why is this important? I think that's always crucial to deal with, because I don't just want to give you all these things that I'm recommending without telling you the why behind it. But essentially, I've found, I know with myself, when I wake up in the morning, there is a natural temptation that I'm not even aware of all the time to check my phone. Check my email, check my socials, check the news, and that kind of stuff. I'm not a huge news checker, to be honest, but email for sure. And then sometimes I fall into the social media trap. Is this true for other people, or am I the only one? Am I the only one that when I first wake up, my habit oftentimes, yeah, okay, cool. That's what I thought. All right.
Yeah, especially like for me when I have my alarm set on my phone, so I have to look at my phone first thing. And so then, yeah.
Exactly. So I haven't used an alarm in probably 15 years because I've been really working on these routines where my body now just wakes up naturally. Unless I have like a super early morning flight to catch, I don't use an alarm. I don't need to use an alarm. And but you make a really good point about that. The phone is, if that's your alarm. But here's the good news is that, like, for $5 you can get an old school digital alarm clock and start to use that if you find that using your phone as your alarm opens Pandora's box first thing in the morning. So in the chat, there's another great idea: charging your phone downstairs, just so it's like not right there next to you when you wake up. Now, then you have to watch that you're just like, that's the first thing you go for. So it's nice that it maybe gets you out of bed, but if it's drawing you in, essentially what it's doing, what I'm proposing here, is that it's throwing you off your rhythm. It's not allowing you to set a foundation for your day that's going to equip you in handling the challenges of your day. Instead, as you look at social media, as you look at the news, as you look at your email, you're just naturally drawn in to something else's rhythm, something else's priority that's not your priority, not your health at the like most important thing. So I didn't say that very eloquently, but you know what I mean. And by leaving that alone and doing these things that I'm about to share with you, I'm proposing that you will be setting the foundation for your day by finding your rhythm. So then when you do start to interact with things outside of you, you're better equipped to deal with them. So you might get knocked off balance a little bit, but then you get back on track, rather than if you're never found your groove to begin with, and then the world starts happening and you're just all over the place and you're like, oh my gosh, what, just can I just go home and go to bed, start over? So that's kind of the why. Does that make sense? Does that feel like it's worthwhile to have your own rhythm, have your own foundation, to connect with your true integrity every day, first and foremost? Hope that it does. So the first thing we can look at is the Ayurvedic clock. We can see that they're sort of different. Each dosha has like a 4-hour time period. Then, so the 2 a.m., the 2 to 6 a.m. and p.m. are the Vata times. So this right here, so we're going to start over here of when you're kind of finishing your sleep. If when I wake up, sometimes I wake up 4:30 in the morning naturally, and I'm like up, just like awake. And like that's pretty much my 4:30 to 5:30 is when I naturally wake up, and I'm just like awake. And this is because I'm waking up at the Vata time of day. It's like, let's go, let's do this. So this is natural to wake up before sunrise. That might feel very unnatural to you, however, depending on how old you are and what your lifestyle is. But hear me out. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the Kappa time. That's why when you so sometimes I'll wake up at 4:30. I'm like, I just kind of want to sleep for another hour. But I actually end up sleeping until like 7. And then it's like, for some reason, I'm not as awake when I wake up at 7. I'm still like it's still like, it's hard to get out of bed. I'm not as like, boom, up and ready as I was at 4:30. And that can be explained potentially by this idea of that being the Kappa time of day. Then we move into 10 a.m. to 2. This is Pitta. This is, remember, fire is Pitta. It's heat. This is when your digestive fire is at its strongest. So having your biggest meal is a great idea. We also see this naturally. The warmest part of any day is going to probably peak right around 2 o'clock. That starts to cool back off as we go into Vata. And then from 6 to 10 is the Kapha time. So this is the time where you want to try to fall asleep. This is somewhere in this range is a good time to go to sleep. Because you'll start to notice at 10 a.m. you'll get a second, or sorry, 10 p.m. you'll get a second wind. And this is because it's the Pitta time. So if you don't take advantage of those natural like sleepy waves that you get, usually like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and you let it go past, and then you get to this point, and then it's like really hard to get to sleep. So something for you to consider, something to think about. And again, you might be way off of this clock because of your lifestyle, like especially like if you're into gaming or you like to study late at night and that kind of thing. So just be careful that those things aren't affecting your overall health. And you might want to start to use some of this wisdom to apply it to stay more in sync with your natural rhythms. So first thing in the morning, notice your first thought. Whether it's based on the dream that you had, something you need to do later that day, something random, just notice that first thought and give thanks for it. Okay, that's going to practice you like watching your thoughts and being aware of them rather than just letting them pass right through and on to the next one. And it's also going to help you build your ability to be grateful for things. All right, because if someone's like waking you up, it's going to be hard. You might not want to be too grateful to that person. You're like, oh, let me sleep. But finding gratitude when it's not the ideal situation is like the real challenge. It's easy to be grateful for someone when they give you a gift, right? It's hard for you to be grateful when something like not ideal happens. So it starts to build that ability within you. Again, You're not checking your phone. You're not checking the news. Now you got to get out of bed though. And this is why if you wake up before 6 a.m., it's a little bit easier, believe it or not. And then actually like touch the earth and give thanks for the earth. And that might be a little weird for you. I don't know. But for me, I feel like we really take our natural environment for granted and we kind of abuse it. And so the practice of really being aware of the gift of this earth is really important to me. And it really helps me to be more mindful of my choices and how it impacts the environment. So I really recommend that. And it gives me a reason to get out of bed. Now from there, bathroom time. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night to pee, that means you're probably drinking too much water too late in the day. So start drinking water earlier and drink less of it as you get deeper into the evening. But when you don't go to the bathroom right away. See if you can hold it. If you absolutely have to pee, then go ahead and do that first. Take some cold water, put it in your mouth, start rinsing it around. As you're rinsing it around in your mouth, splash 5-7 times, then spit the water out. Getting rid of some of those toxins, hydrating your face, giving your face a little fresher up. Okay? Now, you can also, after you've done that, you can also use something called a tongue scraper. Okay? So this is like a copper tongue scraper. You can see it's kind of flimsy. It can go to different tongue sizes and shapes, and it's pretty cheap. It's like less than $5. You have to say like a natural grocery store. Sometimes you can find these actually in like pharmacy type places, like Walgreens, Rite Aid, that kind of stuff. You just take it, you stick out your tongue, and you scrape it. I'm actually not scraping it because I don't have anything to clean it off right now, but you get the idea. If you gag when you do it, you've gone too far back on your tongue. So just kind of go slowly there and scrape your tongue about 5 to 7 times. Rinse your mouth out with some more water, spit that out, and then clean off your tongue scraper. Let it dry for tomorrow. If you know people who have really bad breath, this is a huge tool for them to start using. This can really help. All right. Any questions so far? Let's continue. Next, blow your nose. Do that however you're going to do it. Me personally, my face is already wet. My hands are already wet. I just blow my nose in the sink, and then I make sure to clean. My wife does not love this. I will admit that. So I have to really be careful. I use my hands, and I just make sure everything is cleaned out of the sink and there's nothing left behind, because that would be gross to go use the sink and something be in there. So anyway, in addition to blowing your nose, you can also use something called a Neti Pot. Okay, and these come in different colors and sizes and shapes. Also, you can get it at like Walgreens and CVS or whatever. Not very expensive. I want to say like about $10 maybe for a pack. And it'll have instructions on how to use it. But essentially what you do is you put warm water halfway up, just so you don't, when you're stirring it up and dissolving the salt, you don't splash it. Then you have to use good salt. Okay, you can't use like ionized or refined salt. You have to use like sea salt or kosher salt. And you put about, I think it's about a 1/4 teaspoon, and you mix it up. Just use your finger, mix it up. Fill the rest with warm water, mix it up one last little time, being careful not to splash. I like taste it, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's probably about the right. Sometimes I'll be, ooh, that's way too salty, and I have to adjust, or not enough salt. You'll get a feel for this, and also the instructions will tell you. But then what you do is you take it and you stick it into your nostril tight, okay? And then you tilt your head to the side and slightly forward. And what happens is the salt water goes into one nostril, up into your sinus cavity, and then it comes out your other nostril. And if it's more clean, then it's going to flow out pretty quickly. If it's more congested, it might trickle out, or you might have to be patient and kind of just let the water pressure build up, and it'll slowly start to flush out. Once you estimate about half of it's done, take it out, kind of blow out, and then do the other side. Stick it on up there. Now, if you don't tilt forward enough, it's going to go down your throat. And it won't go like fast. You'll start to feel it, and you can just adjust instinctively. All right. But I wanted to point that out. that your sinus cavity is connected to your throat and your nose. So make sure you're not only tilted to the side, but then slightly forward as well. Anyone do this? Anyone have done Neti Pot before? This is amazing when you have allergies, yeah, if you have sinus headaches and that kind of stuff. This is crucial. It was funny. I'll never forget the one time I had my friend. He was complaining about not sinus and nostril stuff, and I was like, "Oh, dude, have you ever tried Neti Pot?" And he had never heard of it, and so we did it, and he was like, "Batong, I'm smelling things that I've never smelled, or like I haven't smelled in like a decade," type of thing. It was really funny. So these are really great. Probably not to use every single day, to be honest. I would say you could easily use it once a week without worry. And then, once a day only when, under conditions where your allergies are really triggered and stuff like that. Otherwise, maybe every other day, every third day. All right, next you want to use the toilet. All right, so evacuate everything. And I recommend the optional thing here is listed on your screen is to have a look at what's coming out. Remember, Ayurveda sort of says you want to have stool that is well formed, sort of the consistency of a overripe banana. So formed, soft, easy to pass. If it's too hard or dark, that probably means you're not getting enough water, enough oil in your diet. If it's too loose, that means that you're probably not getting all the nutrients that you need, and you need to take some things to sort of slow that down. If it's liquid, that means you should probably fast for a little bit and really let your digestion reset. It's kind of a little bit too taxed at the moment. All right, so then brush your teeth. Okay, I used to always be like, why would I brush my teeth before breakfast? I'm gonna use my mouth. I'm gonna need to brush my teeth afterwards. Why don't I just wait to do it then? Well, toxins build up in your mouth overnight. If they're sitting there, even though you've rinsed your mouth out, you've scraped your tongue, there's still some toxins in there. If you then start to ingest anything, you can re-ingest those toxins. Not a huge deal. You've probably been doing it for your whole life, but this can be a way to work towards slightly better health. All right. Now we finally qualified to take something in, and I'm going to recommend you take in some warm water and some lemon or lime you could use, but you just take a little slice. It doesn't need to be a lot, it can kind of get an expensive habit unless you have a lemon tree or something. But yeah, take a little slice and just squeeze it in there and then get rid of the little piece. You don't want to put it in your cup unless you've really cleaned the skin of the lemon or lime really, really well, okay? Now, while you're drinking it, enjoy nature. If it's easy for you to step outside, step outside. Just listen to the birds or look at some flowers. Or if you can't step outside, just look out your window. If you can't do that, get a little house plant or try to grow something in your house and just kind of look at the progress of it. So again, this connection and the appreciation of nature, I think, is really important because nature has its own rhythm as well. And that one tends to work towards harmony, whereas social media, email, news, I would argue, does not work towards harmony. Quite the opposite, actually. Also, if you're a coffee drinker, this can help replace the ritual of drinking something warm first thing in the morning. All right, we want to avoid drinking caffeinated things in the first 4 hours after waking up. I'll talk more about this at the end, but yeah, so this can be a way that if you're trying to break that habit, that you can do this instead. Okay, now mindful movement and some deep diaphragmatic breathing, essentially our yoga practice, but it could be something like Tai Chi or Qigong or something similar. I tend to do about 17 to 21 minutes every day. I have the same routine that I do. It helps me to open up my body for the day, but it also kind of allows me to sort of check in with everything. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder, this is tight. I wonder, oh, that's right. I did some leg workout or something along those lines. So it just helps me to really stay connected with what's going on. It also prepares my body for what's next, which is some seated meditation. All right, so seated meditation can be uncomfortable unless your body's starting to open up. So I do my sequence of poses really addresses my body tendencies. Not all the poses are poses that I like, but I know it's helpful for me to do them. It makes my meditative seat that much easier. Again, you don't have to go 12, 20 minutes or whatever. You can pick something that's manageable for you. Pick something that you can do daily. So just commit to that time. And if you have to be somewhere after it, set a timer. If you don't, just like have your clock nearby and then just kind of feel, it's like, okay, I feel like that's been about whatever your time you commit to. Because that's the first thing you do, commit to a time. Don't just sit down and just like, I'm done. Just no, commit to a time. All right, that's first. Second, commit to a focus point, whether that's your breath, whether that's staring at a candle, whether that's staring at a cup of water, staring at a photo of a loved one. There's a lot of different things that you can use as a focus, but pick that and stay with it. I like to use some things I repeat to myself sometimes, like when my mind is particularly active. I'll like inhale, say to myself, let, and I'll exhale, say to myself, go. I'll also inhale, say to myself, so, and exhale, hum. Sometimes I'll visualize. I'll visualize like a white healing light as I inhale, traveling up my spine. And when I finish my inhale, it gets to the top of my head. Then as I exhale, I feel this like white healing light sort of dripping back down. Inhale, bring it back up, exhale. So I just kind of stay with that. All right, so these are different kind of techniques that you can use to help stay focused. And be clear about this. Meditation is not stopping thinking. Most people cannot do that. Instead, it's I'm picking a focus, I'm picking a time, and I'm committing to working on training my brain and training my mental energy to not stray from that. Thoughts will come in. What you're going to do is, oh, there's a thought. Cool. I'm not thinking about that right now. I'm coming back to my focus. Oh, there's another thought. Okay. Not thinking about you right now. Back to my focus. Keep that going. Like that's your work. That's like your repetitions of your mental workout. And over time, you start to build the ability to not get carried away by thoughts. I mean, something might pop into your head where it's like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, not during meditation, but just in life, thought comes in and it's like, ooh, that's helpful. I need to think about that right now. There's gonna be plenty of other times where a thought comes in. It's like, that's not helpful. Let it go. It's really hard to do that unless you've got this practice. Okay, 7 minutes. That's one snooze. You can do it. All right, then you're going to shower. You always want to shower before you eat. All right, because if you eat, your blood is going to go to your gut, and then if you go shower, your blood's going to rush to the surface of your skin to get it warm. Even if you're taking a really hot shower, it ain't 98 degrees. So you'll notice, well, now that I've said this, you'll notice in times where you've like eaten and then you take a shower, your belly's going to feel off. You're going to feel some indigestion. So always, 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 no matter what time of day, shower first, eats after. But in this situation, if you know your morning is going to be stressed out time-wise, shower the night before. You're going to keep your sheets cleaner, and it's going to be it's going to be a more restful sleep when you've sort of washed the day off of you. And then it saves you time in the morning. One of the other things I really love to do before I go to sleep is I shower, and then I take some sesame oil or coconut oil, massage my feet for a couple minutes, and then put some socks on, and then go to sleep. And I knock out. Some of the best sleep I have when I do that. All right. Then, if you're not showering or if you've already showered, then you eat. And now notice I'm not saying, okay, now you can get your phone and check out. No, you're still leaving that alone. The food that you're eating, something gave its life for you to consume that for sustenance. There's not many things that you can consume for nutrition that didn't give up their life for you. It's like milk, eggs, and honey. Everything else had to die for you to eat it. Whether you're vegan, vegetarian, or omnivore, that's the truth. So, hey, life begets life. As long as you're honoring it and you're present with it, I think that it's all good. All right. Now, once you've got all that finished, now, okay, maybe you start to engage with the world, or maybe not. Maybe you start to realize, like, you know what, this is, my mornings are so much more pleasurable when I can just be with my rhythm and like just enjoy the things that are around me. But it's given you at least 30 to 60 minutes of time where you've set your foundation, you've been able to find a bit of your rhythm, and now you're ready to take on some of the stuff that's coming from the outside world. And this is what I mentioned. You want to wait 4 hours from the time you wake up to your first cup of coffee or caffeinated tea. And what this does is this allows your body to produce the hormones that you need to like wake up and like get out of bed and get moving. If you're taking caffeine within the first 4 hours of waking up, you're interrupting that process and your body's going to start to rely on that caffeine. And that can be a hard thing to do, especially if you're already in the habit. So again, use the warm water and lemon thing for the ritual. And you might have a couple of tough mornings, kind of get going, but just know that after the 4 hours, you can go ahead and a little bit of a pick me up. About 8-ounce cup here, maybe one more 8-ounce cup, and then but try not to go more than 20 ounces of coffee or caffeinated tea in any day. And even that's kind of on the high side. So really trying to manage it. If you're waking up at 8, don't have your first cup until noon. If you're waking up at noon, don't have your first cup until 4. But that's really weird. If you're waking up at noon, it's gonna be really hard for you to fall asleep if you have a cup at 4. So maybe just don't drink coffee and let yourself fall asleep earlier and try to get up at an earlier time. I was gonna say a more reasonable hour, but hey, everyone's got their life. All right, last couple minutes here. I just want to talk to you about some COVID and viral precautions from Ayurveda. So my practitioner, Arun Deva, it's A-R-U-N, it's his first name, D-E-V-A is his last name. He's a practitioner here in Los Angeles. He's amazing. And, he's recommended that before I leave the house, I take Nasya. Looks like this. This is just some sesame oil, eucalyptus oil, some other things. Then you put a couple drops in the nose, then you take your pinky finger and you sort of like coat the inside of each nostril, okay? And then of course, wash your hands. But this creates an environment that's not very conducive to viral penetration. So it's not gonna be somewhere where the virus is gonna hang out, which can really help as a protective barrier. Then when you come back from being outside, get a little pot of water and start to boil it. While you're doing that, wash your hands, 20 seconds, so 5 seconds, 5 seconds on the back, 5 seconds on this back, and then in between, and then kind of your fingernails, right? That'll help make sure you get between that 20 and 30 seconds. And then you go back to that boiling water and you careful not to burn yourself. So go slowly, but you inhale through your nose deeply and you exhale out of your mouth. Do that 10 times. Then inhale through your mouth, exhale through your nose 10 times. What this does is that heat, that steam comes in to help kill anything that you might have brought in from outside that's sort of stuck in your nose or mouth, the kind of the respiratory channels. So there it is. So what I want you to do now is take a moment and just think like, okay, which one of those things comes really naturally and easily to me? Like maybe it's something you already do, you just need to continue. So kind of like think about that one for a second. Okay, I got this one, let's build off of that. And the next thing I want you to think about, okay, is like, what's going to be the really hard thing to do? And not avoid it, but then start to think about, okay, how can I set myself up for success? Whether that's, yeah, charging your phone in a completely other room, whether that is you getting yourself an alarm clock, a digital alarm clock or something, some cheap one that you don't have to rely on your phone. Um, Maybe it's you put a little of this list in your bathroom. So like when the bathroom section, you write all that out and you tape it to your mirror. So think about things that you can do and start to implement some of these things and see how it feels. See if you can take a 7-day challenge where at the very least, no phone, no email, none of that kind of stuff for at least the first hour after waking up, and see how you feel. So good luck with it. It's not going to be easy, but hopefully you found some tidbits in here that you can apply to your life, and it's going to support your overall well-being.